When is a marketing plan a good marketing plan? This is now the conclusion of our lecture on how to write a marketing plan, and I will talk to you really quickly what that means. The signs of good marketing plan are very simple. A good marketing plan is very focused. It doesn't have to be in a lot of pages. If you do an expansion marketing plan, you probably need to talk about like methodologies like ends of matrix, how you're going to achieve the expansion, the growth, how are you going to grow the business. If you talk about a new market entry plan, then you will talk about industry attractiveness, competitive forces in that industry, and so on. If you talk about improvement of profitability, that usually includes product portfolio reviews, and therefore you need a product portfolio analysis, something like that. Yeah, they are really simple. They're not very complex in terms of language or in terms of logic. You need to be able to understand, and they should be very focused, simple in terms of straight to the point. There shouldn't be any fluff. Every sentence should either build up more argument or give you more data to interpret, or should be building more argument interpretation of the data. It should be really moving the subject forward. It should be very, very specific, and you should quantify your statements. It should be about the topic and only about the topic, not going off on a tangent. And if you say this is a great market, I will really have a problem with that, because if this is a great market, then I want to know what is the criteria for being a great market, and how do you come to the conclusion that the criteria is fulfilled based on what data. So you need to really quantify your statements, and the way to do that is to look and always to compare. A good thing to remember is compare to what. If somebody makes a statement this is good or bad, then you should always compare to competitors, maybe to other industries, to averages, or so on. It should be realistic. You should be able to do it, and a quick gut check is discovery driven planning. You can Google that and look it up on the library. That is a methodology how to evaluate quite quickly if what you have planned is actually going to be feasible. Instead of analysis first and then conclusions and then a plan. For example, how many people live in China? Let's assume we can sell to 1% in China. Wow, that's a lot of people, and we're all going to be rich. That is not a feasible and realistic plan. I would say you should do it the opposite way. You should look into what is the standard cost to export to China, how long does it take to really penetrate the market there based on some case studies and something, and then you say, well, with this market penetration rate and with these costs, and that is what is to be expected, then we will never ever be able to achieve the type of sales needed to fulfill the objective, or the type of sales needed to cover fixed costs or something. So go from the end of the plan and move your way backwards. That's what discovery-driven planning is all about. Don't skip any part of the plan, and for sure do not skip the financials. The financials is the first thing I look and read next to the executive summary. If the financials are bad, that means you have poor implementation planning, because you cannot calculate the financials correctly. If you have poor implementation planning, means you did not do a good job of reflecting your execution plan in an implementation plan. You probably have a poor execution plan. That means there is no way you're going to reach the objectives that you have defined, or maybe you're too vague on the objectives, and so on. You see, it goes from back to front. A financial part is really depending on all the other parts, and therefore it's a great way to evaluate a plan quite quickly. I will also look for your logic. I mean, if you say because 5 people like the color blue, does not mean an entire country likes the color blue. There are logical flaws, very, very, very simple. For example, what is good for one is not good for all. If one person stands up in the movie theater to see better, that is true. That will improve performance for one. But if everybody does it, that neutralizes a lot of improvements, and therefore it's not valid. Those type of logical flaws that A causes B. That does not mean that A causes C or B causes C. Logical, just purely logical statements, they need to be solid. And that is the end of how to write a marketing plan. I hope you got some pointers here, and check the resources, the template that I will give you, and some of the other further materials that are available. How to contact me? You can contact me on LinkedIn under Thorsten Strauss. I am part of OpenLink, so you can contact me for free. You can find me on Twitter to read some of my marketing feeds actually of Twitter. I post them there, as well as on LinkedIn. You can contact me at the University of Antwerpen, Thorsten.Strauss at uantwerpen.be, uantwerpen one word, or under Thorsten.Strauss at howtomkt for market, howtomkt.com. What is my background a little bit? Actually, my tagline is I have 3 worlds experience, meaning highlighting the unique background that I have worked as a marketeer in an industrial setting, including on executive level as part of management. I have worked as consultant or work as consultant still under projects, and I work as lecturer, so combining 3 different types of perspectives on marketing and the challenges of marketing, which is I think unique. Then I am German born, educated in the United States, and educated at Copenhagen Business School with an MBA. I worked and lived in the United States for 8 years. I worked and lived in Europe for 20 something years, 22 years. I worked and lived, not lived, but I worked in the Middle East for over a year very extensively, and I also have done some business and experience in Asia, exposure there with some of the studies at Tsinghua University, the Harvard of China, as well as, of course, production units and suppliers in Asia. I was a product manager in the start of my career, and then marketing manager and global marketing director. I led several projects, numerous projects actually. The 3 most relevant for this class would be a market penetration project, a geographic expansion project, and a global portfolio optimization project. So I'm quite familiar with project planning, and my expertise and core competence is actually strategic planning, strategic process management, and ownership.